It's good to have you with us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we feature those who have overcome or those who are in the process of overcoming a life event. We have three objectives with this podcast series. One, we want you to know that you're not alone in whatever you may be experiencing in life, that together we can overcome whatever it is that you are encountering. Our second objective is to help you know that there are multiple solutions to anything that you are encountering in life, that when we think into and think through a situation, we can devise multiple solutions. The third objective is we want to help you with critical thinking skills. If what you're encountering is a result of a decision that you made sometime in the past, that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision, we want to help you with those critical thinking skills such that you can more thoroughly analyze the facts and factors involved in making a decision such that you can make a more informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. Together, we are the Cooper Culture, and we are sponsoring this podcast series. Today, we feature Seth Barnhart, who is a part of the Friend of Sinners ministry, and he has a phenomenal message. Marty, what are some takes that our listeners can gain from this podcast?
There are a couple of things I'd like to bring up. Seth was great. And you can hear in his voice his love for Christ, his surrender to Christ, and his love of helping others overcome any challenges they may have. He brought up also the story of Joseph in the Bible and how his brothers hated him and finally sold him into slavery. And after years coming back and meeting his brothers again, and they realized who he was, Joseph said to them, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." And Seth was saying that God allows certain things to happen, but it's for our own good, and it's our growth in Christ that comes through these challenges.
Listen also for how Seth addresses what he calls kingdom men. That is, we men need to step up and face the challenges that we have. He's also encouraging us to trust the process, and through his life experience and having overcome, we can help others develop the faith, build the faith that there is a solution to any life challenges. Let's join Seth and listen to this very inspiring podcast. Seth, thank you so much for joining us today. Our listeners, I am certain, are going to be captivated by your story, the way things used to be for you. But Seth, as always, your story today and forward, your transformed life is going to be very important to our listeners. Can you take just a brief amount of time to describe where you have been, what life used to be, and we want to put the importance on your today life and going forward, but then also what you've learned from the past that may help anybody that is going through what you have been through. Seth, we're very interested in your story.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I love having an opportunity to tell people what Christ is doing in my life. I hope that it reaches somebody and gives hope. I'm a person that if I can change, if God can work through me, he can work through anybody. I'm 42 years old. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. I started using drugs at an early age. By the time I was 15 years old, I was addicted to crack cocaine, LSD, alcohol, and just basically the lifestyle that accompanies it. I've spent several years in prison. I started out in juvenile detention centers at 15, 16 years old, and once I got into the system, it took me up until probably a year and a half, 2 years ago to get myself out of it. I struggled with addiction and criminal lifestyle. Been to prison 6 times for everything from robbery, theft, forgery, fraud, and just all the things, all the criminal lifestyle that comes along with feeding an addiction. I guess assuage the habit, to come up with the means to maintain a drug habit. I had crack cocaine is very expensive. Like it costs about $500 a day to maintain that habit, and I had to come up with that money somehow. I was horrible. I was a monster. I did I did a lot of terrible things. I destroyed a lot of relationships. And now, about going on 18 months sober, I can attribute that success. It's my faith in Jesus Christ. It's nothing that I've done other than made a decision to be obedient to him and to serve him, to wake up every day and choose to serve him and not the things of the world. Over the years of incarceration, I had a relationship with God. Well, I didn't have a relationship with God. I knew God. I knew the Bible. I could quote scripture. I went through the motions, but I never truly surrendered my life to Christ. At times I would I'd have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that didn't work. So I'd give a little more, sometimes even up to 99%. That just don't work. It's not enough. Till we truly surrender our lives to Christ, I believe that you won't be set free. God is willing to set us free. He does set us free, and we have to give our lives to him. And that's what I chose to do. I'm going on 18 months sober today. I have a job with Friends of Sinners. I'm a public relations associate. I came here after spending some time in jail. They reached out to me, and they came and seen me, and then it became an option for me through the courts in lieu of going back to prison or staying in jail. I met with the admissions coordinator, Zach Nance. He came to see me in jail 4 or 5 times. I got a relationship with him and worked on taking the steps to make it here. And then I came here, and once I got here, I realized that this place is a answer to many prayers, not just for me, but for families, for my family, for so many people who just want to see their loved ones make it and get out of the pit that they're stuck in. I mean, it's all God. It's not Friends of Sinners, but God. This is God's program. He's working here, and this is the place where men and women, we have a women's facility too, when they decide that they want to do this thing right and they want to surrender their lives to Christ, this is the avenue, this is the channel, this is how and where all that takes place, where I've learned to walk it out, learned how to be a Christian, to be discipled, be a discipler, and ultimately just be an ambassador for Christ. After being in the program for a while, it turned into a job for me. I now work with Jordan Wilson. He's the development director here. He's got a great testimony going on. He's got over 5 years sober now. I'm surrounded by great men and women who live for Christ. This place just equips people. It gives us the tools to learn how to function, to be reconciled to our families, be reconciled to the community, be restored. I'm just happy and proud to be part of it.
You have a great story of transformation. Seth, take us back to the beginning before you ever got started in drugs. And again, our focus is not the past, but rather, did you feel that you just had a little problem with acceptance, having friends? To use Garth Brooks' expression, some of us have friends from low places. Were you at a point in your life where you would just accept friends even though maybe they, in hindsight, were friends in low places? Is that a part of who Seth was in the past?
I like that question because looking back, I never really had friends because I wasn't friendly. I couldn't really be a friend to people. I was very selfish. I started using drugs and getting off into the lifestyle at such a young age. Yeah, it had a lot to do with peer pressure, and it had to do with fitting in and being accepted and being liked and, having drugs to give to people and having, just kind of being the man, being somebody that, people wanted to be around. But it was all for selfish reasons. Like there was no true friendship, no real bond. Today, I can say that I have well over 100 brothers. Like I have good friends now, solid people in my life. All throughout the years, it was more just I thought they were friends, and I was never really a good friend to anybody. And I mean, there was people in my life that cared about me that I could have. They could have been friends, or they were friends, but I was just blinded by my addiction, and I just had a one-track mind. I didn't really know how to be friendly to anybody. I didn't have integrity, no character. I didn't have any self-respect. It was everything was a facade, like, false pride and things like that. But starting out, I guess that it was kind of succumbing to peer pressure that and, just wanting to fit in that attributed to my usage. But like I said, looking back, it started out so early that before I even had a time to even make rational, mature decisions, I was already hooked. Like the hook was in me, at 15 years old. So if you think about like a 15-year-old now, if you even look at like an 18 or 21-year-old, they're still very much young and impressionable, and they, especially if they don't have Christ in their life, they don't really have a clue, about life, and I don't know. So I hope that answers that question.
No, that's good. If you were working with someone, and when I say working with, I'm talking about you've established a rapport relationship with someone that very closely approximates who you were, do you think you could identify a person, and I want to be very careful to our listeners and you, that I have no intention of stigmatizing or labeling anybody. However, based on what you have been through, Seth, could you identify the person who has the propensity to go the route that you did? And if yes to that, how would we effectively engage those who might follow the path that you took, but hopefully help them from taking the first drug and getting hooked and go the path you did?
Wow. Could I identify that person? Absolutely. Could I see the signs? Absolutely. Like if I had a child, maybe only to be able to identify that clearly like that would be somebody that's gone through it. So for people that haven't experienced it themselves or through their families, it can be hard to notice. But at an early age, depending on how a child's raised, like is the father an alcoholic or a drug addict, or divorced, single moms, any child in that type of environment or upbringing is definitely susceptible to it and need to be take closer attention to them. I feel like the main problem in America and just in the world period is that we suffer from a lack of men, kingdom men that are willing to stand for Christ and raise their children and be a kingdom father, a kingdom husband. Not having a father in the home that is raising the child the correct way is, for me and from what I've seen, that's one of the number one reasons why these things happen. It's no guarantee that the things won't happen if that is all in place. However, children without a dad, without a solid foundation at home, church upbringing, they're at risk. Like everybody's at risk, but that would be the most important way to fight that, to combat that, to prevent it. Identifying, I can spot it. I can, if I'm around somebody just for a minute, I can tell if they're struggling. One of the gifts that God has blessed me with is discernment. Maybe it's because of the experience that I have, but I can sit down and talk with somebody and identify with them, and it's easy for me to spot. But for others that haven't been through it, it can be I don't know how to say it, but it can creep up on them. It can be happening without somebody knowing. Addiction is of the devil. It's demonic. He sets traps, and he's got a plan. Just like God has a plan for our lives, Satan has a plan for our lives, and it starts out early. He's working on us from the day we're born, trying to get us acclimated to the world system versus the kingdom system. And every day, every choice we make is going to go one way or the other. It's going to go towards God, or it's going to go towards evil. And it's a constant battle. It's a spiritual battle. A lot of times we don't understand it. A lot of times there's not much we can do about it other than pray and trust God. I believe if it wasn't for praying mothers and aunts and sisters and family members, and sometimes I think about what were they going through for 30 years of watching me fail and relapse and struggle and deal with the issues that I've had. How does that affect them? How does that look for them? All I know is today I have a mother who is proud of me, who I've put through hell, And we just got to pray for people and just trust God. We have to believe the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So as we become followers of Christ and living in his will and doing our best to represent him, he hears our prayers. The more we pray for people and the more intentional we are about it, we can believe that God's doing something. He's going to do something. His timing, we'll never know it. We'll never understand it. His methods of restoring people, we'll never know. Looking back on my life, take the story of Joseph in the Bible. If you watch his life and how he went from the good son that all his brothers were jealous of, and they took him and they threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery, and then he ended up in prison, and all these things that happened. And then all of a sudden things turned around and they started changing, and God started using him. There was no way for him or anybody in his life, as things are happening, to know what was going to happen next. They just happened, and it all worked out for good. I believe that God does work all things, everything, to the good for those that love him and are called according to his purpose. The timing of it and how it all works, we don't know, but we do know that we can stand on that promises that he will work it all for the good. And that's what's happening with me. I don't know what's happening next. There's no way to tell, but I know it's good, and I know I can trust him. And just like Joseph in the Bible, Joseph couldn't have known ahead of time what was getting ready to happen next. Same with Moses, everything that he went through. But God used him, and we just got to trust God. We just got to pray and just trust God.
You have a very firm resolve in your voice. That's one thing I love. The Apostle Paul is probably the hero of my faith, and everything that he went through and where he came from and so forth. Seth, I too am a believer that anyone can be a chain breaker, that you can stop whatever has happened in the past. I have an expression, but I just believe it, that we're all a product of our past, but we're only a prisoner of the past by our personal choice. And with that in mind, Seth, you endured a lot. Your mom and dad endured a lot. You are self-described in and out, and you had, I'm going to say, a head knowledge of God, but we sometimes use the expression that is whatever is in the head, did it make it to the heart, and possibly not in your case. For those who are saved, God gives us a new life, a new heart, and Christ wants us to be transformed. Romans 12:2. Be transformed and do not be of the world. Let this mind which is in Christ also be in you. Amen. I just sense that you experienced and are experiencing that major transformation, that God is working in your life, and I'm trying to project myself in your mom's position, that she may have thought something like, gosh, will my son ever come out of this? Perseverance is one topic that comes to mind. Can you give hope to those who may be at that point of having to persevere, that I have a loved one who is going through this, but they're not on the other side as you are? Try to project yourself in maybe your mom's position. What about perseverance? What might people have to go through to persevere? And I'm guessing, Seth, and I'm going to form this as a question, you were hoping, and I guess your mom was, and maybe plenty of other people were there ready to accept you when you made the decision, I'm done with what used to be. Am I characterizing that correctly?
Yes. So a lot of times how God builds my faith is through trusting him through the process. So my mom she's always had a strong faith in God. She believed. She just knew someday. Matter of fact, I got a message yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Messenger from a friend of mine who I've known since I was about 18 years old. A good friend of mine. She worked in community corrections up in South Bend, and we've been friends for years, and she, like my mom, has watched. Matter of fact, her son struggles, and she prays for him dearly, and she loves him dearly. And I know that this is what she's seeing with me is going to give her hope. She sent me a message and said, I just knew that God had you, like that God, I knew it. Like I had faith in it. And that's a faith builder for her and her son and her family and anybody else. When other families see, like what's going on here at Friends of Sinners, people get to see on a daily basis, and that's a faith builder. It might not be happening right now for their son or their daughter, but it can happen, and it does happen, and they just got to trust the process. It's not faith. It's not easy. Like it's a struggle sometimes to hold on to that when we see, the opposite of faith is sight. So we see what's happening and what's going on. We don't see any progress, but God's always working. Like even when we don't see it, he's up to something, and he's working through people. He's working through this ministry. He's working through the church, and I just believe the more just one at a time, each one man and woman that God does his thing with, when other people see it, it's going to increase their faith. They're going to pray more. They're going to be more intentional, and it's going to grow. It's just going to have that effect. And I believe that, I don't know, I see revival coming, and I see it coming through prisons, jails, addicts. I think that's where a big major shift is going to come, because the people that are just the most lost and counted out, and they ain't going to make it, them are the ones God uses, and there's a bunch of them getting ready right now. God's preparing people right now to come out of darkness, to come out of bondage, and just the more people that see, the more people doing that, it'll show them that. Because if you don't see it, if you don't never see, if all you do is pray and all you do is just watch people fail over and over and over, it's hard to have faith. It's hard to believe that anything's going to change. But when people start seeing it happen with people that they never would expect to change, that's where something's going to happen through that, and it's going to be a domino effect. And I just believe I believe that something big is getting ready to happen. Like God talks about, like all through like Isaiah and Jeremiah, about the oppressed people and the way people are treated, that God's going to raise them up, that God's going to have his way. He's going to have the final say in it. And them are promises, and I stand on them, not just for myself, but I just see God, he's getting ready to set a lot of people free.
We totally agree with you. Marty and I are mentoring 2 inmates, and I would say before we got to know these 2, we knew of inmates and prison only academically, but we want to provide hope to everyone. One of the things you're saying is God is working providentially in very many situations. God is certainly working providentially in Marty's and my life. You've described eloquently how God is working providentially in your life and those within your circle of influence. I think what you're saying, Seth, in part is, and you've got several messages, I believe. Men, come on, let's man up. Let's step up and take action. If there's in couples, my experience is if there's only one of 2 in a couple who is very active in the faith, it's likely going to be the lady, and I'm certainly, for those ladies listening to this broadcast, I am certainly not demeaning any female in any form, but I am suggesting to men, let's man up and let's take action and be ready to move out and take action that God is calling us to do. God clearly says that faith without works is dead. We've got to have action that exemplifies our faith and put that in action. If we were to devise a call to action, what are some things you would encourage our listeners, those of us, to do to help turn our nations around? I am learning that a lot of rehab centers, a lot of prisons are being filled up because possibly in this period of COVID, maybe some people are turning to isolation, that they feel alone in some respects. Maybe, as I discussed earlier, that maybe they're developing friends from low places, but we have got to think ahead, and for those of us who are strong in the faith, we need to reach out to others. I think that's what I hear you saying. And if I've said anything that does not accurately characterize your feelings, please let me know. But I'm very curious what your thoughts are on a call to action.
We spend a lot of money on building prisons and a lot of things that do not work and are not effective. What we have going on here at Friends of Sinners, we are Christ-centered. So we are, everything that happens here, it comes from God, it comes through donations, it comes from supporters, people that believe in what we're doing here. Our community here in Owensboro is so supportive of us. They see what we're doing. They see the effects that it has on this community. I think all the resources that are being wasted on prisons, and I'm not saying that nobody deserves to go to prison, but I'm saying that Department of Corrections does not correct anything. Jesus Christ does that, and there's got to be a way. Like there was many times when I was in prison that I had a great relationship with God, and I got out, and I was on fire for God, and I'm going to do all the right things, and within 1 week, I fell flat on my face and was right back into old things because I didn't have, there was nowhere to go like Friends of Sinners to actually show me and teach me how to walk it out, how to be a Christian. Jesus, the last thing that he said before he left was go and make disciples. That is probably the most important thing we can do is discipleship. Men need to be discipled, and they need to disciple others. And through that, I believe that's the key. That's the ticket. If we have any hope in America over addiction or just the way that things are going, that's what's going to work. So I think that even as far as like lawmakers, they need to believe in faith-based recovery centers. And I'm not talking about just any old rehab that teaches AA and NA, and nothing against that. But if Christ is not at the center of it and people ain't learning biblical truths and principles, there's not going to be true reconciliation, restoration. It comes from Christ and Christ alone. And I think the focus needs to be, people need to take a bigger look at like what we, Friends of Sinners is an example, not just because I work here and I believe in it, but it's a fact. Like what's happening here works. It don't work every time. Not every person that comes to the store makes it. You know, some people, they want to go out and have another round, another taste of the world. And for the most part, like if somebody decides they want to leave here and this ain't for them and they don't want to do it, they end up coming back within a day or two or 30 days. They're usually coming back here in tears and you know, I want to come back. And that, just that magnetic pull like that it has on people, that's God. Like what's going on here works, and we need to focus on what's not working and change it instead of just continue in a broken system, in a broken world. It's preposterous to continue with what's not working. We need to take a look at what's working and focus on that and pour into that and, you know, allocate resources to that. And why not? You know, it's, if I can change, if what's happening here and what's happening through my walk in Christ is working for me, it can work for anybody. I just believe that the recipe for success is Christ first, and then you got to have, and not just the church, you got to have a place, you got to have men, brotherhood, accountability, relationships. That's the key. That's the focus. And you know, we're talking about just men, kingdom men. Men got to step up and be men. Dads need to be dads. Husbands need to be husbands. We need to be involved in the church. And I believe that there's just nothing more powerful than that to affect change.
You're very inspiring, Seth, and I will tell you, Marty and I totally resonate and agree with everything you're saying. For those listeners who feel they may have a calling toward a prison ministry, we certainly agree with you. Get involved and be doctrinally based and get involved in people's lives. Figure out how to get inside of prisons and have an effective relationship with people. You mentioned accountability. Yes, we need to be accountable to each other. We need to be accountable first and foremost to God and make sure our life is in conformance with God's precepts. But then after that, it's a matter of having a heartfelt desire to, as you very eloquently said, disciple others, want to share the hope that lies within us with those who need that hope. And I believe that it is a calling, and I would hope that those listeners who feel a calling but they're uncertain just a direction to go, if you feel a calling to work with ministries, to get with you, Seth, get with Marty, me, and we'll designate a way to make that happen. But I think the more we choose to take action, the more we choose to be proactive, the greater the positive impact we're going to have on people, the greater the value we'll add to people and help them to become everything that God created us to be. Seth, gosh, man, you've got a great message. I just love the way you speak with a very confident resolve, having come from where you were, and most importantly, who you are today and forward, and that's the message of this podcast right now.
Thank you.
Seth, I want to thank you, too, for this message. This is wonderful. I pray that if there is someone in your area that needs your help, they will come to you.
Amen. Thank you.
Seth, thank you for sharing from the heart, and God has transformed you. I love the resolve in your voice, and you can very positively, with that firm resolve, just tells people that been there, done that, and you know exactly what it is that took you from where you were to where you are, and God has a lot that he is preparing for you that to impact a lot of lives. Seth, thank you for sharing from the heart.
You're welcome, and thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Did Seth stimulate your thinking on addiction? Just some things that are circumstantial, meaning the environment and so forth, that might be contributors to people making decisions that possibly after they have overcome, they would like to have made a different decision. I'm very interested in your thoughts. I hope you'll engage with us. That Seth has some very interesting insights into the Friend of Sinners ministry that is working well in Owensboro, Kentucky. The model that they have put together might be very viable for other areas of the country. I'm not supposing that their model would replace, but rather would augment other recovery programs that are in existence, but I'm very curious in what your thoughts are. There is a possibility that by working with Friend of Sinners, we could establish various campuses around the country that put his model into effect and help others through or avoid addictions, avoid making difficult decisions, but rather are helping people make more informed decisions. We're learning that there are a lot of people who just feel either isolated or otherwise don't feel just exactly where they fit in society. If we choose to engage, we can help people make good decisions. We can develop very meaningful, genuine relationships. We can help people overcome any challenges, any circumstances in their life that might otherwise be operative in their life to cause them to feel rejected, not accepted, or otherwise may bring about less than a good decision. But let's engage. Let's talk about this. Seth brings up some very good points. He is very resolved in his overcoming his past. He's now on 18 months free of substance abuse, but he looks back and knows the damage that he has caused over a period of time. This is a faith-based podcast, and we certainly want to introduce Christ to those of you who know that you need more to life than what you have, and we want to help you through the various circumstances you are in. We want for you to have the foundation that there is hope. There is always hope. There is a way through various life circumstances, and we want to help you to know what it is to know Christ and to have the foundation of the hope that lies within us and the hope that can help us overcome any life challenge. There are also challenges that people have individually or corporately that coaching can help overcome. Marty and I are certified coaches through the John Maxwell team, and we want to help people overcome any life challenges they have. And through coaching, we can help them overcome any doubts, fears, any inhibitions they may have, and help them through various life challenges to help people perform at their God-given potential. Marty and I have developed a relationship course specifically targeted to dating, to define the right mate, to help those determine if the potential life mate is the right person. If you are married and the pizzazz is not what it used to be, let's get together. Let's talk about marriage and how to keep life in marriage, and we want to help you determine the right lifetime mate, but also just know that having the right lifetime mate is so fulfilling. The most important relationship you could ever have is that with Christ. We want to introduce you to Christ and help you to make the decision to live a life for Christ. And if you are married or you're considering marrying or dating, we want to help you with that relationship. Call us at Ron Cooper, Marty Cooper, 410-586-1875, or Ron at thecooperculture.com, or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We'll be happy to connect you with the Friend of Sinners Ministry and the program they have going on. If there is a possibility of establishing their business model in your local community, let's work together and see if we can't help others to experience the fulfilled life that Seth expressed and everything that he has going well for him, how he has overcome, and how we might help others make a better decision or a right decision to not get engaged in any form of addiction. But let's engage. Let's know your thoughts, and let's share ideas together. We look forward to engaging with you.